Welcome movie guys and gals. I have recently passed 100 subscribers, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed and watched my videos. In the land of YouTube, 100 may not be a lot, but given this is just a small channel, I am very grateful to my subscribers. On Twitter, I promised to do a Q&A video once I hit 100, and I had a lot of questions submitted, so thank you to those who submitted questions. Now, due to the number of questions and length of the answers, I will be placing timestamps in the description box along with the username to the person who submitted the question, so if you're one of those people, you can just skip straight to finding out what my answer is to your question. Because as a lazy person myself, I understand the plight of other lazy people, so laze away. Also, to show appreciation to those who submitted questions, I will post links in the description box to their various accounts and websites, so if you want to learn more about them, you can follow the links. But for now, let's get to the questions. Alec Zander, the Sylva movie critic on Facebook, asks, if you could experience a movie for the first time again, which one would it be? I'd say 1991's Pure Luck, which is a remake of 1981's French film La Chèvre. The first time I saw this, I couldn't stop laughing. There wasn't a single moment I didn't love, but what happens with some comedies is the more you watch it, the less funny it is. So I would love to experience all that laughter for the first time again. Lolo Loves Films on Facebook asks, if you were forced to watch one movie that you hate on repeat forever and ever, what would it be and why? First of all, that's an evil question. I hate a lot of movies, and most of them I never want to watch again, but I would have to go with 2010's The Last Airbender. I really love the cartoon series Avatar: The Last Airbender, which isn't an anime for those who keep thinking it is. I also enjoyed the spin-off series Avatar: The Legend of Korra, though nowhere near as much as the original. I'd say the only thing that film did successfully was the hairstyles. That movie was a mess from start to finish. The worst thing about it was that no one said the Avatar's name right. Not even the Avatar! In the movie, they call him Aang. He even calls himself that, but if you've ever seen the series, you'd know his name is Aang. They only said it like in every episode of the show. How do you screw this up? But despite how much it makes my skin crawl because I love the cartoon series and I love seeing elemental powers, I could probably put up with watching this movie a few times. At 5 Minute Movie Guy on Twitter asks, what's the worst movie you've ever seen and what makes it so bad? That would be 2010's A Serbian Film. There are some films that can really affect you emotionally, and this film for me was so horrific and graphic and such an affront to my moral core, I couldn't finish watching it. I got to a certain point in the film, which I will not mention, and this scene was so traumatic that I threw my laptop across the room and I sat and I cried while every ounce of my body was trying to throw up. I think certain things should never be depicted on screen. I am glad this film was banned in so many countries. I don't give a shit if people try to tell me what great philosophical or political meaning these horrifying scenes represent. They are appalling beyond words. And there are some messed up people in this world who would get off watching certain scenes in this film, and I don't want to encourage that. So for me, this is the worst film in existence. Yes, I know how it ends, and knowing that still gives me nightmares. At 2 Honest Guys on Twitter ask, what would you like to see in the Wonder Woman sequel? I would love for it to be explained where she got the new shield and sword that we see in Batman vs. Superman and in scenes of Justice League. Either that or please explain it in Justice League. I would also love to see Diana reunited with Hippolyta and Themyscira again and see her people or them come and find her, whichever. I just really want to see that world again because it was stunning, and the idea of her going 100 years without seeing her home or mother makes me sad, so fix that. At Movie Geekcast on Twitter asks, what's the first movie you remember seeing in the theatre? 1994's The Lion King. My big brother took me to see it, and I still haven't recovered from Mufasa's death 23 years later, but has anyone? Tyrone Bruinsma Films on Facebook asks, what's the best looking film and why? I would go with 2002's Hero and 2006's Curse of the Golden Flower. These are both Chinese films and are directed by Zhang Yimou, and they are beyond stunning. Zhang Yimou has extraordinary way of using color in his films. They are not just vibrant and intense, they serve a real purpose to the story, whether to reflect an emotion or a character's status or even just a time of day, or to separate what part of the story is being told. As soon as I saw these films, I could not get the visuals out of my head. They were just so impactful and memorable. At the Movie Guy 14 on Twitter asks, is there a film that changed your life or your way of thinking about a concept or philosophy? Honestly, no particular film has done that, but the anime One Piece has. One Piece is my favorite anime, and at first glance, it's just this cute little anime, and then you start to get into it and you see the themes that are in it. There are real-life issues and conflicts in the world or in history that are depicted in this series, and that's not something I thought animation could do. I learned that somehow animation is able to capture an emotion or a real life issue and portray it in a way live action can't. At times, it is almost more powerful and more confronting. It has this way of mirroring the real world, and it's magical and intense. You grow up thinking anything animation is just cute and for kids and you're not meant to learn anything, but as you grow up, you notice that animation teaches you things you didn't realize you were taught, and it exposes you to things you wouldn't expect. Anime is this really intense medium, and unless you watch anime, you couldn't understand the power that it has. At Emma Loves Films on Twitter asks, what film do you enjoy despite involving your least liked actors? This is a tie between the Twilight series and the Pitch Perfect series. I can't stand Kristen Stewart or Anna Kendrick, and funny how Kendrick is in all these movies. I love the Twilight series. I'm a fan of the books. I saw the first film before I read the books and got into the books after and fell in love with them. But I can't stand Kristen's acting. It's very stale to me in every single movie she does, and I felt she was cast all wrong for the part of Bella and that she just portrayed her incorrectly. And Pitch Perfect is entertaining and has all these songs I absolutely love. So I love these movies, but I can't stand Anna Kendrick. Both of them, no matter the role they play, their performances don't ever really seem to change from movie to movie. I can barely tell the performances apart, and it just really bugs me, but I still watch and enjoy those movies. At Jedi_Renate on Twitter asks, what movie are you most looking forward to watching in 2018? Aquaman. I became interested in the character when my boyfriend showed me Aquaman's power profile, and I was like, wow, this dude is badass. I also have this obsession or fascination with water powers and underwater kingdoms and mermaids, and these people don't have tails, but I feel like they encompass all of that. So for me, it's like everything I love in one movie, so I'm super excited to see it. @_what's the motive on Twitter asks, if an extraterrestrial race landed on Earth tomorrow, which one film would you tell them to watch and why? 1996's Mars Attacks. First I was thinking, okay, I'd show them a movie where we are welcoming to aliens, but if these aliens are bad, then that would just make them think we're easy to dominate. But if I showed them a movie where humans kill aliens and they turned out to be nice aliens who just want to hang out and chill, then it probably scared them off or pissed them off, so I felt a happy in-between was Mars Attacks because it shows we can be welcoming to an alien race, but if that alien race tries to start some shit, we're gonna kick their asses. I probably overthought this, but that's my answer. At DN_now playing on Twitter asks, favorite Batman lead? Val Kilmer in Batman Forever. Loved everything about it, and I felt he had a good balance of hand-to-hand ass-kicking abilities and use of gadgets. At Manny In Lo-Fi on Twitter asks, which films do you find yourself quoting over and over again in real-life situations? 1992's Death Becomes Her and 1988's Big Business. These two films just had a never-ending supply of really catchy lines that my brother and I would casually quote at random moments at the drop of a hat and then just go back and forth because they are just that much fun, and I still do it to this day. At Lazy Sunday Movie on Twitter asks, any films that made you change the way you think about the world? 2001's Life as a House. This film, which is absolutely amazing and makes me cry every time, really makes me think about death and how we as humans respond to it. This film made me realize we all know someday we'll die, and yet we never really acknowledge that fact and live our life to the fullest. Then there are people who are told they will die. Not might die, will die. Some fall to pieces and just wait for death to take them, but then there are the people who get proactive, who suddenly decide, now is when I'll live and live for me. Now is when I will think about those I love and what memories I want to leave them with and what ways I can enrich their lives before I leave this earth. It's really emotional, but more so because it's strange how for so many it is not until we're faced with death that we really begin to live. At Lil Movie Review on Twitter asks, what film made you fall in love with movies? So that's Death Becomes Her and Bram Stoker's Dracula. They both came out the same year, 1992, and have been the two most influential films in my life. Together they provide me with everything I could want in movies. Romance, drama, comedy, horror, fantasy, action, even the music associated with both films is perfect. I've loved them both since I was too young to watch or understand them, and my love for them never changed. It just grew and made me want to see movies like it, and it all just blossomed from there. At Riley on Twitter asks, do you watch films all the way through even when they're bad? Yes and no. With some films, even if they are bad, I will watch them all the way through. It's that morbid curiosity. You want to know just how bad it will continue to be. There is a bit of fun in that, but if the movie is really boring or so bad I can't even have fun picking on it, basically I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm gonna turn it off. At Caution Spoilers on Twitter asks, what film, classic or terrible, would you like to see remade and starring whom? The Chronicles of Narnia. I absolutely loved the original BBC adaptations, which were done in the late 80s and early 90s. They captured the books to a T and were just perfect. When C.S. Lewis wrote the books, he did write The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe first, then Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and The Silver Chair. Then later he went and wrote The Magician's Nephew, which takes place before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and sets up the entire world of Narnia and Aslan and everything. Then he wrote The Boy and His Horse, which takes place between The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian. And then he wrote The Last Battle, which is the final book in the series and gives it the proper finish. When Hollywood tried doing the Chronicles of Narnia as big blockbusters, they should have started with The Magician's Nephew, because starting with The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe is telling only half the story, and we end up missing a lot. For years I've wanted to see an adaptation of The Magician's Nephew, and especially The Last Battle, and I'm pretty sure I'll never get it, but if they remade the series and started from the beginning, then I would love for Peter Cullen to do the voice of Aslan. Most people would know Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus Prime in Transformers. At Emma Stone Fan 24 on Twitter asks, what film series do you feel is overrated and or underrated? Overrated? The Fast and the Furious. I am a fan of the Fast and the Furious films. They are jam-packed full of action, but nothing is ever really achieved in the films when you really think about it. So yeah, I do think it's a bit overrated. And for underrated, I'd say the Hannibal Lecter movies. They're some of the best crime film series that really dives into criminal psychology, and either people have only heard of one movie in the series or two, but it just really never was promoted as a real series. It was more promoted as a bunch of films with the same characters, but there is a real story going on, and every film does link up, so yeah, as a series, it is definitely underrated. At Big Pick Reviews on Twitter asks, do you think remaking or continuing Charmed is a good idea, or is it better to leave well enough alone, or is there a reason to march on? I love Charmed more than anything in the world, which is why I want it to be left the hell alone. A couple of years ago, they tried to do a reboot, and people were so pissed the idea got axed. This year, they announced another reboot in the works, which focuses on 3 women in the 70s who become witches and are brought together to fight demons. They are taking the show's name and the magic concept and building a completely different show off it, ripping off the original and trying to steal an already established and loyal fan base. Lots of fans have said they would love the show to come back with only the original cast, or they want to see the next generation. I want none of those, because that thinking is very narrow. A show is not just its actors. A show is the writers, directors, producers, costume designers, set designers, the list goes on. And unless you have all of the exact same people coming back to do the same jobs, then even if it is the same actors, it will still not be the same show. Point blank, period. At the end of the day, Charmed is very special to me, and you can't replicate what that show did. Many shows have tried, and all of them have failed. There hasn't been a long-running TV show about witches since Charmed. I hate reboots and remakes. They are just a legal way of taking someone else's work and slapping your name on it. It's lazy and the work is unoriginal. Charmed had the perfect send-off, and the only way I would accept it coming back is like a 2-hour reunion show with the cast talking about the good old days. @RevEwwEr on Twitter asks, name a flick in your top 10 that hardly anyone else has heard of. 1995's Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. I'm obsessed with this movie. It's one of the few movies I can watch on a loop and not get sick of, and growing up I would mention it or quote it and no one had a clue what I was talking about. And a lot of people still don't. In the past few years I mentioned it and still only a couple of people knew what the film was. If you love anything campy or drag queens, then watch this movie. The Omega Legend on Twitter asks, favorite film that everyone else seems to hate and vice versa. 1997's Batman and Robin. Everyone hates it, and I love it. I've said before, I love the color, the campiness, the fun, the catchy one-liners, and the killer score. It tried to be fun and entertaining, and that's what it was to me, and still is. And since I'm talking Batman, favorite of everyone else's that I don't like is the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. I don't remotely enjoy them. There's Bale's stupid 10-pack-a-day smoker voice, the fact he's trained to take on 500 ninjas and gets his ass kicked one-on-one, but mostly it's how they wrote Bruce Wayne. In the comics, Bruce has trained himself to live off a couple hours of sleep, so during the day he can focus on being Bruce Wayne, and at night he can be Batman. As Bruce Wayne, he is an extremely successful businessman and quite the philanthropist, so he does use his wealth to help the people of Gotham. But in Nolan's version, Wayne is a shit businessman. He abandoned his father's company, he let it pretty much go bankrupt, and he thinks by acting like a drunken moron and parading around with half-naked women, then people won't know he's Batman. I mean, it just really ticked me off. This Batman doesn't really use martial arts. We watched him get trained for half a movie, and all he does really is get into fistfights. I felt, at least with all the previous adaptations, they all showed Bruce Wayne as a successful businessman who supported a lot of causes. They did better at capturing both aspects of the character, I feel. Smashbomb Movies on Twitter asks, if you had to watch one movie for the rest of your life, which would it be and why? 1988's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, done by BBC. That movie, or mini-series, is my childhood. It's a story I grew up reading and got to see it come to life, and I've never gotten sick of it. I can watch it over and over and over, and each time I still feel like that little girl watching this and feeling like I'm stepping into a whole other world. And it really makes me crave Turkish delight too. @Scriptease_HQ on Twitter asks, which films of the last 5 years will be watched in 100 years' time? Star Wars. All of them. Star Wars has been around for 40 years and the fan base keeps growing. People grew up on those movies, then they had kids and they grew up on them. And with more Star Wars movies coming out, it will continue to be introduced to more and more generations. This is a series that has proved it is timeless. It is loved by so many different people of different age groups, and even before Force Awakens came out, if they'd never done another Star Wars movie, it wouldn't have mattered because it is still that loved, and that's not going to change anytime soon. The world could end, but those movies will survive. So that's the end of the Q&A. Thank you again to everyone who submitted questions. I really loved answering them. There was a lot of good stuff there. So thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to check out all the people who submitted questions. Their links are down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and, thumbs up if you liked it, or thumbs down if I hated a movie in this that you happen to love. I can deal with that. Until next time, bye.